This car has a crazy story.
I don't think Porsche writes eBay.
It still makes me angry thinking about it, and it's been over a month since that happened. The customer brought it in for a few small issues, which took us down a deep, dark rabbit hole of scummy, scammy behavior on the part of another shop. My name is Josh, and some friends and I just opened a service garage in Roswell, Georgia, called Wolfpen. One of the things we do here is tell you stories about the cars we work on, and I am very excited to tell you this one. The owner of this 911 GTS was headed out on a Porsche rally in a few days, but since he didn't feel like he could trust his old shop anymore, he brought the car to us. His first complaint was about the car's handling, but it was an intermittent issue that didn't sound like it was going to be easy to replicate. So we took it out on a test drive, but I had trouble finding anything wrong. Now, I'm not a tech myself, but I'm learning that one of the hardest parts about diagnosing an issue is figuring out how to reproduce it. The only thing we did learn is that Jack does not get motion sick unless you take him on the same roundabout 3 times in a row. We were stumped by the handling issue, but I figured that Jack could use his editing powers to fix that in post.
I thought my jokes were bad.
So we moved on to the next problem. The previous shop had recently, and allegedly, in the law and order sense of the word, installed a new set of rear wheels and tires, but they'd used a mismatched valve stem. The customer wanted that replaced, which meant removing the tire. Simple, right? By the way, we're going to keep a running list of all the things the previous shop did wrong. So we put the car up on the lift so we could remove the center lock wheel. And Gabe, our Porsche-trained tech, was excited to use our brand new $5,500 center lock wheel tool because it makes him feel like he's on Drive to Survive. But Gabe must be on the Haas team because he could not break the wheel nut loose. Since it was our very first time using the tool, Dr. Bobby theorized that it might have been user error on Gabe's part. But that's when Gabe noticed a clue.
Yeah, because these corners shouldn't be flared out like that unless it was impacted on or way over torqued.
Which meant it needed to be replaced as well. It now seemed clear that the rear wheels had been massively over-tightened, but instead of forcing the issue and potentially breaking something the day before the rally, we decided to hold off on installing the new valve stem. But we're batting 0 for 2 in terms of solving the customer's problems. Maybe it's an ego thing, but at this point we needed an easy win, so we moved the car to the alignment rack and found something we could fix. The customer's toe was just slightly out of spec. We corrected that, and then on a hunch, we ran a diagnostic on the rear steering motors. Our theory was that maybe the rear steering system was responsible for the handling issue. We didn't notice anything wrong, but we all agreed that it looked cool. So we sent the customer on the Porsche rally with the advice that maybe he take it easy and let us continue our investigation when he got back.
Several days later.
When he returned, he had some useful information about the handling issue. The culprit seemed to be that the stability control system was kicking in on fast, sweeping curves. And he had discovered yet another mistake by the goons at the other shop. They had installed the wrong tires on the rear wheels. The tires were the correct size for the car, but they were also too narrow.
That doesn't make sense.
Exactly. That's what we thought at first. You see, Michelin makes what they call N-spec tires specifically for Porsche. But what most people don't know is that the N-spec version is significantly wider than the normal version, even though the number on the sidewall is exactly the same. Which is weird, right? Why would the Germans use a smaller number when the real number is bigger? It's like if your fiance told you that she had only ever been with 3 guys, but the actual number...
Oh,
Have I got your attention now?
So it's perfectly understandable that the other shop would buy the correct size tire, not realizing that it was actually the wrong size. But tires do cost money, so we're gonna put it on the board. And that could be a big clue as to why the stability control system was acting up. So we did what I think anyone in our position would do. We took the customer's car to the racetrack to test our theory. What's up?
How you doing?
Good. Taylor, is it?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, how's it going?
She told me.
Oh, okay.
I'm Josh.
Josh?
Good to meet you. The wrong size tires were too narrow, which meant they had to stretch to fit on the wheel. That stretching effectively reduced the diameter of the rear tire, which meant that the rear wheel had to spin faster to keep up with the front wheel. Now, the stability control system makes its decisions based on wheel speed. So if the rear wheel is spinning faster than the front, the system intervenes because it assumes the rear tire is losing grip. And to confirm that, I took a long sweeping curve at over 80 miles an hour, and sure enough, the stability control lit up like a Christmas tree, even though I knew the rear tires still had plenty of grip. Sketchy. It is sketchy. That weird things are happening that should not be happening. But there are places where you would expect it, like, hey, I'm losing grip, things are getting squirrely, and so it intervenes. It definitely happened around that sweeper. There were other times where it sort of, I would see it flash, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I wasn't expecting it there. So now we were confident that the wrong tires were to blame for the handling issue, but before we could replace the tires, we had to get those rear wheels off.
Nothing.
Which meant it was time to break out our favorite tool, brute force. When our 3-foot breaker bar wasn't enough, we added a 4-foot cheater pipe. If you read the directions that come with your breaker bar, they specifically tell you not to do this, and here's why. Undeterred, subsequently,
concurrently, inexorably, ergo,
we hatched a brilliant new plan, which was to try the exact same thing one more time.
That's not supposed to happen.
I don't like us being in this position where we have to try this stuff. I'm sitting in there pressing my foot to the floor with the brake, and you guys are still rotating it. Like, you hear the brake slipping.
At this point, we were stumped because it seemed like the other shop had somehow managed to apply at least double the 444 foot-pounds of torque that Porsche specifies. But how did they do that? Dr. Bobby wanted to use a giant impact wrench to get the wheels off. But the other shop denied ever using one to put them on.
Nah.
And in that denial, they gave us the next clue that we needed. The shop owner said that they had used a torque multiplier. So of course we went out and bought the biggest one we could find. The way this thing works is it takes whatever torque you put in and it multiplies it by 3. Our torque wrench can max out at 600 foot-pounds of input, which would be 1,800 foot-pounds of output. We thought this would be our magic solution, but we immediately ran into another issue. Gabe, who really likes to follow Porsche's rules, it's why we love him, insists, hold on a second, I gotta put this down. It's heavy. Insists that the only correct way to work on center lock wheels is with the car in the air. But when we made our attempt, the torque multiplier was so strong, it raised the entire car off of the lift. Careful, it's moving the car. Which was terrifying for me sitting in the driver's seat. In the interest of not risking a catastrophic accident, we decided to defy Porsche's best practices and put the car safely on the ground.
My anxiety level goes up every new attempt.
We were ready for another try, but we were still morbidly curious about how tight those wheels were, so we used our biggest torque wrench to loosen them. We went in intervals starting with 1,200 foot-pounds, which wasn't enough. It took 1,500 foot-pounds of torque to loosen those wheels. If you're wondering if all that torque caused any damage to the car, it did. When we tried to thread the nuts back on, they would not go on smoothly, and the local dealer confirmed that they would need to be replaced. And then we noticed that one of the tires had a visible band running all the way around the sidewall, which experts will tell you is a clear sign that the tire has been driven on while flat. We already counted the cost of the incorrect tire on our list, but I am just petty enough to count it again. Along with the incorrect tires, the previous shop had charged the customer for a brand new set of Porsche OEM wheels, which cost $4,000 each. But when we removed the wheels, we couldn't help but notice that they didn't exactly look brand new. One of them had a lot of scuffing on the inside lip, which is maybe just a sign that somebody did a bad job when they were mounting the tires. But when we looked closer, we noticed small nicks on the spokes that seemed to have received touch-up paint. Where I'm from, brand new wheels don't have touch-up paint. And believe it or not, this is where things get a lot worse. Kind of like the final season of Game of Thrones, or a family dinner outing to Captain D's.
And who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
What?
Up until this point, everything we've seen could be chalked up to a simple mistake. But the other new wheel, although it did look nice on the outside, was hiding a horrific secret on the inside.
Satin black eBay?
I don't think Porsche writes eBay. It looks like a repair, right?
Oh, that is a repair.
Again, I don't know exactly what happened, but I know that the customer was charged thousands of dollars for these wheels, and to my eye, neither one of them looks like a brand new wheel. So let's recap. Wrong valve stem, damaged center lock tool, wrong tires, damaged tire, ruined center lock wheel nuts thanks to 1,500 foot-pounds of torque, new wheel that didn't look new, new wheel that was clearly purchased off of eBay but was sold as new. I want you to put yourself in the customer's shoes because you've worked your whole career, you've built a business, you were finally able to buy a new Porsche 911, you love this car, and when there's something wrong, you take it to a shop, and this is what happens. But the car still needed to be fixed, and after a couple of weeks, the owner of the previous shop finally delivered the correct tires. And with them installed, you could immediately see the difference in the sidewall profile. Given everything that's transpired, we wanted to confirm that the new tires had actually fixed the handling issue. So of course we took the car back to the racetrack, and sure enough, I was able to take that long sweeping curve at much higher speed with no intervention from the stability control system. Car feels pretty good. I didn't see stability control light up. That's a great sign. We got it. It's no stability control. So this car is officially fixed, but it's not quite done. It's been sitting in our shop for a long time. So we reached out to Nova, a local detailing master, and he and his friend Eric offered to give the GTS the royal treatment. And it's funny to think that a mistake as small as a mismatched valve stem led to us discovering a whole host of issues. But it did turn out to be a great test for our new shop. And it also illustrates a big part of why we decided to open Wolfpen in the first place. We wanted a place where we could bring our own cars, where our friends could bring their cars, and where you could bring your car and not have to worry about the kind of shenanigans that are obviously a big problem in this industry. Thank you for joining us at Wolfpen. If our first few weeks of doing business are any indication, we are going to have a lot more stories to tell you very soon.
Tearing itself apart from the inside sounds like what I do every morning.
This just got dark.
Hey, would you mind if I take off the Captain Dork helmet before I do the footage?
Oh man, it's too late now. This is
Wolfpen.